Alrighty guys, welcome back to Crash Investigation. This is day 2. The previous day we went over the what, when, and how of aircraft crash investigation. We talked about finding causes and recommendations. Today we're going to talk about one of the reasons planes might crash. This is getting into a little more detail of just an overview of some of the planes. Anybody ever seen this person before here on the display?
Drake.
The girl.
Drake.
The girl.
Oh.
Who's the girl?
The pretty girl or
The pretty girl.
The girl.
They're all the
Okay.
same people.
Her name is Aliyah. Okay. And the reason you guys do not know her, do you never heard of Aliyah?
Yes.
When did she play in Phoenix? Did she play in Phoenix lately?
No, she's dead. She died in a plane accident.
She died in a plane accident. That is amazing. Great idea. Well, that is exactly the why I have her on here, because these were pictures of the plane accident. Does anybody know how she played? Because now you guys are aircraft crash investigators. Why? You can see a plane crash for the rest of your life and you're going to go, why? So why did she die in this plane crash? Was she doing drugs and flying and crashing? Why do you think she died in this plane crash? Yes?
The plane hit the ground really hard, so.
That is probably true.
sudden impact.
Okay, well, as a crash investigator, believe it or not, just looking at a plane like this, you can tell a lot of things. If the angle of impact is vertical, is there going to be a tail remaining? Vertical. If it goes straight down the ground, there's nothing going to be but a smoking hole in the ground, and the little bitty parts will be about this big. When a plane comes and lands and crashes and maybe is trying to land, you might have something looking like this right here, because it looks like they tried to land, right? And actually, the death of the people may have been just by fire and not impact. Smoking, inhalation, yes. So you can look at plane crashes and pretty much determine just by walking up to them the angle of impact of the plane. Write that down, angle of impact. You guys need to know what the angle of impact for the crash is. And when you walk up as a safety investigator in the trees like this indicates, and you see tails, you see parts of the fuselage still there, you know that it did not go straight down and that it was probably trying to land or take off in this case. So, to cut to the chase, the bottom line was this aircraft called a Cessna 402 Caravan, big Cessna. It was designed to carry, I believe, 6 to 8 people. Can you all read that? Let me blow this up a little bit bigger here. It was taking off from the Bahamas, 6 to 8 people, but 9 people on board. What would that tell you as an aircraft investigator? Overweight. Twin engine. At this point, this is right after the crash. This would be an FAA crash. How long would it take for the official report to come out? A year. But investigators declined to say whether it was overweight because they couldn't officially say it for a year. But somebody who's independent, maybe retired from the FAA, could give their opinion. And they were saying, you know what? If it included 9 occupants and it was designed for 8, then you know what? It might be overloaded. Okay? And basically, when you have an overweight aircraft and you try to take off, what would happen? It might look like that at the end of the runway, right? It might have been struggling to take off and run at the end runway and then landed in the trees or the clearing like that. So, the rest of the story, and I don't think it's in this one, but the rest of the story is that the pilot of the aircraft knew it was overweight. And he argued, said, no, I'm not going to do it. But do you think that pictures of that girl look like she would take orders from a pilot that she's paying?
No.
And so she pressured him to take off and had an extra person as well as sound and photography equipment because they were taking pictures of her in the Bahamas. I mean, it was a photo shoot. And so he took overweight, overgross weight, and basically never flew. I mean, the engine doesn't produce enough lift. It doesn't get enough fast enough to take it. They're flying outside of the envelope of the ability of the aircraft, and she crashed. So, what we're going to look at today is something called weight imbalance. Okay? This is a section of our Jefferson manual that I teach for ground school when we do our honors aviation. And as you can see, I don't need to tell you about the importance of weight because you just saw the importance of weight. You can't fly over gross weight or you're going to have some problems. The other associated problems with weight is balance, and whether or not the plane is properly balanced to make sure that it is inside its envelope. You understand the importance of weight, but then on this picture here, let's see how I'm going to do this. There you go. You can actually think about holding, everybody hold up, everybody's got a pencil or pen. Hold up your pencil or pen and try to balance it on your finger. Okay? Can you do that? I did it. You see, this would be a perfect one for Cadet Hoffman to play with here. We see, okay, all right, so now, and move it around. So you have it balanced. You got it balanced perfectly, and then just try to move your finger.
I did it.
Believe it or not, that's how a plane is. It needs to be balanced like that going through the air. What happens if you move it a half an inch one way? So, let's say you're balanced perfectly right and you're getting ready to take off, you'll be able to take off. But what if, think about it, what if your center of gravity, your center of balance, moves rear? If you move it to the rear, it's going to fall like this, right? The nose is going to fall down. And therefore, you're not going to be able to pull it off the runway. Likewise, and that's exactly what happened here, they had incorrect center of gravity, and I don't care how fast you go down the runway, you pull back on the stick, it's not going to take off because it's going to want to fall nose down. Same way, if you have perfect center of gravity and you move it to the center of gravity to the forward, if you move it forward, then all of a sudden, when you pull to rotate and take off, it's going to keep climbing. And that's happened also. So those are very important. And here on the picture, what I just did with your pencil is a very simple thing of the center of gravity, where I got my finger or where I got my pencil here. Your center of gravity is a very specific point on the plane. Okay? CG is center of gravity. And actually they have a range. You have a range. I don't know how you could simulate that. Maybe you got a flat finger and you can move the finger left and right a little bit. You know, here you go. Here's your range. You can move it left or right like this. But there is actually a range of the center of gravity of where the airplane can balance and be able to fly. That's displayed here on this picture. And actually, I'll blow this up a little bit here. How about that? Did that blow up? Oh, as far as it goes? Okay, I can't see it. See it from there. Center of gravity, you see the green is the actual window, but you can also display it on the envelope. And when I said that the plane for that crash, they exceeded the center of gravity envelope, this is the envelope on a chart. That if you have your center of gravity outside of the envelope, you will not be able to fly properly and crash like these people did. The normal category is described in green here. That's where everybody flies normally. And the utility category means it's sort of like, just like on the airspeed indicator. Remember we had the yellow portion that you don't want to fly in smooth air. This is the utility category, which you wouldn't fly in except in very specific conditions. The way these charts are done, it says location of inches aft of the datum. And for instance, the datum for Cessnas is at the dashboard. So you're sitting in your car and you're looking at the radio. That's the dashboard, and that would be 0. Okay? And so where you're sitting in your seat, how many inches past 0 is when you're sitting in a car? How many inches is your body, your center of gravity, when you're sitting in a car from the speedometer, from the radio? How many inches is that, do you think?
24.
You think about it, 2 feet? Okay, 24. Well, that is the same exact situation that we do here in determining the center of gravity. It's not unlike sitting on a seesaw, which hopefully everybody's done somewhere in the world. They have your datum, like where my finger is, would be the dashboard of the car or the plane, and your bottom is sitting here, Tim is sitting 10 inches here. You're measuring what's called the moment, which is the distance and the force. Okay? So here's Tim, he's 10 inches, and he weighs 50 pounds, and he's right here. So 10 times 50 is what?
500.
500. So therefore you would measure the arm, which is how far it is, and his weight. And so that's 500 inch-pounds. You also have Mary, who's 50 pounds, but you know what? She's 110 inches out here. Is she going to cause more stress on that plane because she's sitting way out here? A lot more stress, right? Because this is 0. So she is actually 50 times 110, which would be 5,500. And the whole idea behind this weight and balance, again, the pilot who is trained to do this, is not, do you do this when you go fly with Delta? No. Is it done for you? Well, actually, yes. The computers and the pilots figure this out on every commercial plane flight, definitely. And your weight is estimated. When you believe it or not, when they check in, the person's typing in the computer an estimation of your weight. Why do you think they weigh the luggage? They weigh the luggage when they check in. Sitting there, bink, okay, you can only have 50 pounds. They know that exactly because they're placing the luggage in the different areas of the plane so that the center of gravity is like that. Questions? Yes, sir?
If you're really heavy, would they change your seat?
You better believe it. It happened to me when I was flying to Columbia, South Carolina. They were in a smaller plane, and were full, and they actually said, we need two people to move to the back of the plane. And I was ready to move, man. I want to get that center of gravity in the green envelope, right? And so evidently there were a couple of empty seats in the back, and they needed to move it back. So you can see actually from this picture of the plane that if the datum is right here, you will actually measure the amount of where the people are sitting and how fat they are, how fat the luggage is, how big they are, and you would measure out the inch pounds, and that would be where you enter in the graph. Yes, sir.
Where would you want the center of lift to be relative in relation to the center of gravity?
The center of flight?
Yes, sir.
Center of gravity is what we're talking about right now. Okay? And the center of gravity it needs to be within the window, and here's another picture. Okay? This is the window, and down here you have the inches aft. Okay? And so I don't understand what you're saying. Center of flight. What's the center of flight?
The center of lift.
Center of lift. Okay, center of lift versus center of flight. Ask me in a couple minutes. We'll get there, okay? That's good. So here in this, you're trying to make sure that it is not worked out. So if you're sitting here flying in this plane, and you have somebody who's weighing 300 pounds as a pilot, okay, 300 pounds, what about if you had some kids in the back? Is that a big deal? Yes. 40 or 50 pounds. Well, it is because there's more inches away from the datum, and they weigh 50 or 100 pounds. But flip-flop it. What if you had a 100-pound pilot and you had 300-pound weight in the back? Or you put even behind the second passenger, what if you put some luggage back in the very far back? That would be a huge problem. That would be a huge problem. And so you need to worry about this and think about the weight and balance. So when you went online and said the plane was overloaded, that's true. But the point is, it's not overloaded, but it was also the balance of the plane and where they put the luggage. So if they were dealing with people with luggage of photograph equipment, lighting, luggage for a movie star that has lots of clothes, they're just probably shoving it in the plane. They're not worrying about the details that how much does that luggage weigh, and you know what, you might want to put that here, and you might want to put her here. And there's other articles that talks about that there was actually an argument between the pilot and the movie star and her agent, because, movie stars don't talk to regular people. And there was actually an argument so much that the pilot was saying he was not going to take off. And they forced him to. It was peer pressure. It was what we call press-home-itis in the aviation world, and he was forced to take off, knowing that he was overweight and he was probably out of balance. So it was a bad, bad situation. All righty. So, in this center of gravity and center of lift, as you brought up, you want to make sure, yes ma'am?
I have a question, like with the carry-on luggage, like sometimes people with the bigger bags, they make it put the bags towards the back with the carry-on.
And why do you think they're doing that?
Would it be like to even out the weight?
Center of gravity and the weight and balance. You're exactly right. That's why they say, hey, we have to check the luggage and you cannot bring it and stick it overhead. When they check it, they put it underneath the where you're sitting, and they put it in a very specific amount of inches away from the datum so that they know that they got 700 pounds right here versus 200 or 300 pounds. They don't weigh your carry-on, right? So they probably look at you and say, okay, your carry-on, you weigh 200 pounds. And they know that you're sitting here, you're probably going to have the carry-on here, and that's 200 pounds. And they do that calculation, okay? But if it gets tight, or they have, and you know what, during the winter, think about it. Do people weigh more in the winter?
Yes.
Yeah, because they're wearing more clothes and luggage and stuff like that. And so during the winter, they may limit your carry-on and have it so they put it underneath in the storage area in a very specific area. Okay, so that is one of the major reasons of airplane crashes, and I wanted to go through that. There was also another, let me see here. This is another very famous crash here. Okay, if you wake up and you're the flight investigator and you show up in Alaska and you come walking up to a plane like this at the end of the runway, kills 10 people. That's a bad day, okay? And you look at it, it's all bent like this. Really, the first thing you might want to think is maybe it's an engine failure, maybe they didn't make it off the runway. But in this case, if it's off the runway, again, they were not being very specific because it was right after it, but basically a air taxi was caused to crash on takeoff at this Alaskan airport, killing all people. In these types of situations, the blunt force trauma does not kill the people. It's the fire and the smoke and inhalation. Okay? But you can see a plane just like that and think that, you know what, maybe they had too many people, maybe the actual pilot was in a rush, maybe they didn't consider it going off. Here's another pretty famous weight imbalance. Do you think this guy had a bad day? These are maintenance people. Oops, where'd he go? There we go. Maintenance people. And they were doing a testing on this aircraft. Can you see what happened to that aircraft?
Too much weight on the tail.
What is a huge amount of weight other than the cargo for the planes? Fuel. So guess what probably happened here?
Too much in the back.
Completely empty plane. Maybe they put on too much fuel with no one in there. Or they were loading in the luggage in the rear of the aircraft and nobody's in the front. That's kind of a bad day, isn't it? You think those maintenance people had a problem? How do you rectify that? How do you fix that?
Put more weight in the front, sir.
Put more weight in the front or defuel it? I mean, you don't want to takes a long time is pulling fuel out of a plane, because you have to line up all those piles. But anyway, this can happen. This can happen. That's another example of a weight imbalance. That is kind of a bad day. All right, any other questions regarding weight imbalance? Big picture. That's the plane crash right there. They actually have a picture of, think about this plane. This was actually a famous U.S. Air one. If you're getting ready to take off, and everything is perfect, and as soon as you rotate the aircraft, the load masters did not tie down your luggage or your generator or whatever you're carrying, and it shifts. And you know it's going to be at this station, at this inches, but as soon as you rotate, it goes, oh, sorry, bink, rotates 5 feet. This is going to happen, right? Therefore, your center of gravity moves aft, and then your nose is going to go up, uncontrollably up. And this is exactly what happened in, I'm pretty sure, Charlotte. But look, 121 miles an hour at 490 feet, very low to the ground. This is a commuter aircraft, and the person is saying push down, and you're pushing as far as you can, but you can't. The center of gravity is over. And basically it was a shift of luggage once she rotated the aircraft. So it was a bad scene. So that can happen after you actually take off, okay? All right. That will conclude lesson 2 for today. We will be back here tomorrow.